Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, experts, and fellow advocates of a healthier continent, welcome to our session, Treatment, the Indispensable Service for Africa's Safely Managed Sanitation. My name is Kitch Bauer. I'm the Executive Secretary of the Pan-Africa Association of Sanitation Actors, and it's my honor and privilege to moderate today's session. As we gather at the World Water Week, let's confront a stark reality. In Africa's rapidly urbanizing cities, over 80% of fecal sludge goes untreated, fueling health crisis, environmental degradation, and economic losses exceeding billions annually. With climate change amplifying floods and droughts, our urban resilience hangs by a thread. Today, we dive into this unseen crisis, exploring how inadequate fecal sludge treatment undermines public health, ecosystems, and sustainable development, and how we can turn the tide. We'll today, in this session, hear compelling insights on the state of fecal sludge treatment across the continent, spotlighting our organization's One City, One FST initiative, a bold call to ensure African cities has at least one treatment plant by 2030 and other treatment services to go with it. Through keynote presentations, panel debates, lightning talks, and interactive Q&A, we'll identify actionable insights, excuse me, lightning talks and interactive Q&A will identify actionable strategies for coordinated intervention along the sanitation chain. To kick us off with the opening remarks, please join me in welcoming the founding president and the leader of PASA, Mr. Ibra Sow, who will set the stage and share the urgency of our mission. Monsieur President Ibra, vous avez la parole. Where's the mic? Okay, cool. Wait.
Bonjour tout le monde. It's the first time when I talk in English at the session, but we don't have a translate. I must try to speak English today, and I hope you will be understand if I do some error in my speak. And I welcome you all to assist in our session. I think it's very important, this is session for PASA. I do my presentation. My name is Ibra Sow. I am a PASA president. And the session is very important for PASA because in most of our 31 countries where PASA members are present, several challenges exist. The biggest challenge is the lack of treatment service. You know, in Africa, it was so many countries, they don't have the treatment plants. When they empty the septic tank, they put it in the area who don't have treatment. And this product come back in the city and damage all the hair of the population. It's not good. That's why we have a big problem with that. And the sanitation service is incomplete without treatment and reuse or disposal. This is why we launched the One City, One Treatment Plant initiative. We hope to use the result of this session to improve the initiative and make it more effective. Maybe you will be understand if you have the good result for this session. We can use it and maybe we will find a good solution for our problem in sanitation in Africa. And I think it's enough. I wish you good discussion and thank you once again for joining us. Thank you.
Merci, President. Thank you very much, President Ibra. Ibra just learned English a few months ago. He's Senegalese. He lives in Dakar, and he's one of Africa's biggest sanitation entrepreneurs with businesses across the value chain of sanitation in about 6 countries within West and Central Africa. Thank you once again. The next event in our session is one of the keynote presentation. Adama Sissoko is the chair of the Partnerships and Resource Mobilization Committee of PASA. He's Malian, and he had travel challenges. He couldn't make it like some of our speakers. So I'm going to make the presentation on behalf of Adama Sissoko on the state of fecal sludge treatment in Africa. So to understand the situation, we must first appreciate the scale. As you can see here, about 800 million people are without even basic sanitation. For the vast majority of urban residents, the solution is not sewer, but an on-site system like a septic tank, or a pit latrine. And some of them are not even emptyable. This means that fecal sludge, the content of the pits and tanks, is the single largest waste stream in our cities. And if you've heard a word called ecocide, then you will understand. Ecocide is like a deliberate damage to the environment. So if we are emptying from our on-site systems and dumping in the open, we're deliberately committing ecocide. I heard of this term when I went for an environmental law meeting in Riyadh in Saudi Arabia for the first time. And I said, wow. So sanitation is in Africa, in most cities, we are committing ecocide. So that's the state of that's the scale of the crisis. And effective management requires a systems approach across the entire chain from collection down to treatment. Unfortunately, this chain is often riddled with failure points because containment structures are online also. Emptying is done unsafely, transport leads to illegal dumping, and crucially, treatment infrastructure is the most significant bottleneck. In most of PASA's 31 countries, in some countries, there's no single treatment, not even one. So, from our review of plans across the continent, which is part of our One City, One FSTP initiative, at this point, we are at the stage of desk review and data collection. We're trying to map FSTPs across the continent. From that review, we find out that these challenges consistently emerge. First, there are institutional gaps, and because FSM is an orphan sector, often without a clear home in government, leading to weak regulations and no strategic investments. Secondly, the financial constraints are very, very severe. But there is light at the end of the tunnel because in our review, we find out that FSM treatment infrastructure are not as expensive as people think, costing millions of dollars. You can build one simple within the community for less than $50,000. So the public investment in sanitation is a fraction of what's needed, and private operators face uncertain revenue streams. And of course, they cannot even access credit. And technical hurdles are rampant, as we found in one of the treatment plants we looked at in Cambarine in Dakar. It operates at 6 times its design capacity, like most of the treatment plants across the continent. In Ouagadougou's Zaktuli plant, there is also chronic overloading, and designs that don't match reality lead to system failure, lack of skilled operators, and even routine operation and maintenance is missing. So, but the story is not just one of challenges. We are seeing a paradigm shift toward innovation, and instead of just disposal, the focus is now on resource recovery. For example, soldier fly technology uses lava to consume fecal sludge and convert it into valuable byproducts like animal feed and compost. And this is a true circular economy solution that is low cost and scalable. Another game changer is container-based sanitation. Yesterday we were at the Susanna meeting with Remy Kopp, the leader of the Container-Based Sanitation Alliance, and we're talking about how this solution is serving unplanned and informal settlements across the continent. And this approach provides safe toilets to households in dense urban areas and integrates collection with professional off-site treatment, effectively extending safe services to populations that have been unreachable. As we have also seen with Sanergy in Kenya, where they use container-based systems and they empty and transport and treat and reuse. So the African sanitation successes can also be seen in Senegal, South Africa, and Uganda. And these innovations are not just theoretical, they are being implemented at city level. Dakar, where our president is, and where the secretariat is based, where we'll be operating from from next month, um, it has become a regional reference point using public-private partnerships to delegate treatment operations and a call center to formalize the M team. In Kampala, where our Secretary General is and is a strong member of PASA, the city authorizes GPS tracking to monitor private operators and ensure accountability. And of course, in Durban, South Africa, which is a hub of innovation, testing and adapting a wide range of technologies to fit different local contexts has been ongoing for some time. And these cities provide um, us with the right institutional arrangement, and with that, we can see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. The management models of FSM are varied. So, what do these cities have in common? They understand that technology is only one part of the equation. The institutional arrangement is what determines long-term success. You have to have institutional arrangements along the value chain, from containment down to collection down to treatment. And whether it's direct management by a public utility, a PPP that brings in private sector expertise, or decentralized community model, the key is clarity of roles and responsibility for each of the institutional arrangements along the value chain. And the most effective systems are those that create a symbiotic relationship between a strong public regulator, an efficient private sector, and an engaged community. The fecal sludge management also presents a resource opportunity. Fecal sludge management is a significant resource opportunity, offering valuable nutrients and organic matter that can be recovered and reused, as we have seen in very profound examples in Sanitation in Kenya. By transforming the current sanitation crisis, FSM can be a powerful driver for sustainable development, contributing to economic growth and environmental protection. Unlocking this potential requires a strong commitment to embracing innovation in treatment technologies like the ones I mentioned earlier, fostering collaboration among stakeholders, and developing inclusive policies. And ultimately, effective FSM will lead to profound improvements in public health and environmental protection, and by reducing disease and environmental contamination. Furthermore, it will enhance human dignity and contribute significantly to sustainable development across the continent. So, what is the way forward? The way forward for us is to first is to integrate into national policies and urban planning. Um, the policymakers in the room, please integrate FSM into your national strategies. We have to invest in both infrastructure and innovative technologies. And this is to our development partners and donors. Look beyond short-term capital investment and support the long-term operational capacity and to ensure sustainability. And to our fellow researchers and practitioners like the BRC and the rest of you and Linda Strand of Earwax, let's continue to innovate and crucially share our knowledge through platforms like PASA, like AFWASA, and other platforms that we have across the continent. The time for piecemeal approaches is over. And I'd like to, as I conclude, invite you to join the PASA One City, One FSTP initiative. This initiative has the objective to strengthen the value chain of sanitation, foster private sector supportive policies, increase user demand for high quality, and improve infrastructure performance and efficiency through advocacy at city, at both national, subnational, and continental level. Thank you very much. And in the words of our president, Ibraso, he says, unless every sludge is treated, President, I'd like for you to repeat this in French when I'm done. Unless every sludge is treated, as we build more toilets, we will only be emptying and transferring fecal sludge from septic tank to open defecation. So we're taking it back to where it came from. En français, s'il vous plaît. Même chose. Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So that presentation was done on behalf of Adama Sissoko, the chair of our Partnership and Resource Mobilization Committee. Now we move into the session of panel discussion. And in this panel, I'm sorry. I have to invite Asha. Sorry, Asha's looking at me like, what is wrong with this guy? So our next keynote presentation is from the head of the Global Water Operators Partnership Alliance. And the global GOPA is hosted by UN Habitat, right? And her presentation will focus on climate change and sanitation, a vicious cycle in Africa's cities. Please welcome. Please welcome Asha.
Thank you very much. Great. No, I think it was probably not an error that you almost forgot me because I think I'm going to echo a lot of what you already said, which is great. I think we're very aligned. So just checking if this is coming up on the screen. It's there. I see it there. But okay. Okay, let's just see. Okay, fine. Okay. All right. So as I was just introduced, I'm here representing the United Nations Human Settlements Program, UN Habitat, and I'm heading the Global Water Operator Partnership Alliance, which works with water and sanitation utilities with our secretariat in Bonn. And I think it's great. I mean, I'm really pleased to have been invited to be here. This is the first event, of course, in the series this morning here, and to really call attention to the big concern around sanitation in African cities. Again? Here we go. Yeah, this way. Okay. So I just wanted to first do a bit of a quick framing of what brings me here and how well aligned I think this one city, one treatment plant is when it comes to UN Habitat's work. So some of you that are familiar with UN Habitat, we have worked on sanitation for many years, including a global publication that came out in 2023 that I will refer to shortly. And now we have, just in the last few months, got approval for our new strategic plan, where urban basic services, together with land, are fundamental in terms of the focus of UN Habitat's mandate in achieving adequate housing, and of course working first and foremost in informal settlements and slums. So I just wanted to put this up here because the strategic plan is out, and now the point is of how do we actually practically implement that, and there is where I think the topic of today on treatment of sanitation is really a very practical example that I would like to convey back also to our organization and to the Regional Office of Africa working on sanitation in Africa. Of course, no need here, I think, to recite the SDGs, of course, in particular S6.2 and 6.3, that is guiding the work of an agency like UN Habitat. But we're also, excuse me, working first and foremost on SDG 11 on sustainable cities. And again, as I've just said, water and sanitation has to be addressed in order for us to talk about sustainable cities. And the New Urban Agenda is also a guiding document for us. I've pulled it up here, in particular for the mandate of GWOPA as we work with water and sanitation service providers. So moving to the topic of the nexus of climate change and sanitation. This is really a vicious cycle. We've heard it. I think you called it ecocide. Ecocide, it's the first time I hear that. Ecocide threatening not just African cities, but other cities as well globally. And really, it's time to look at this in a very serious way, which we see a shift and much more attention coming to. So sanitation systems are, of course, vulnerable to climate events that damage infrastructure, disrupt services, displace people. We see this all the time, all over in the news. And this is creating more health risks, pollution, impacting our ecosystem. And at the same time, poorly managed sanitation is a significant greenhouse gas emitter, particularly through methane emissions from latrines and septic tanks. So this is working together as a vicious cycle, and it's creating this, let's say, ecocide in a way if it's not being addressed. In terms of Africa's urban sanitation deficit, that's what I think we're echoing similar alarming data. And here for me to just add to what was just said, in Africa, 31% of the population only uses safely managed sanitation, and 28% uses basic hygiene. And for us to achieve universal coverage by 2030, the data suggested is that we need a 23 times more increase in rates of safely managed sanitation and a 13 times increase in basic sanitation. So these are huge numbers, and we need practical means to do so. And according to AMCAO data, there is such a big gap in investment financing for sanitation infrastructure that we have less than 20% of the estimated 69 billion required annually for sanitation infrastructure to reach the sanitation targets. There's multiple factors for this. We've heard of them, some of them already. Of course, the rapid urbanization that we see in many African cities is contributing to the scale of the demand to solve the sanitation crisis, aging and poorly maintained sanitation infrastructure, high operational and financial inefficiencies at times that we see in utilities as well, and poor governance arrangements that we need to address together, so a governance issue as well, and the issue around making finance available and making a business case for investing in sanitation. So when we look at climate and sanitation, there is the concept of either too much water, too little water, all happening at the same time in extremely unpredicted ways. And this is not something that the systems that are in place are really having the flexibility to address. So we see flooding where we have pit latrine overflows, septic tank collapses, and so forth. At the same time, we have drought where this creates a compromise in the operations of maintenance and forcing communities to adopt other unsafe alternatives. And the rising temperatures, of course, accelerates the physical degradation of low-cost containment structures and creates other waste management challenges as well. And needless to say, these are even most acute in informal settlements, of course, where poor drainage and limited space amplify the vulnerability. So these extreme climate scenarios that we're facing are really eroding the resilience of the sanitation systems that are already not enough by far. And as cited already, of course, we need to recognize the unequal burden, and this is particularly central to UN Habitat's mandate in terms of disproportionate impact on vulnerable communities. I think the session today has framed the urgency, but what we really want to talk about is what are we going to be doing. So this is really a call for action to invest in safely managed sanitation. And there is a misalignment in many African countries between the predominance of on-site sanitation and this low availability of treatment facilities that we've already heard about in the opening statement. So UN Habitat has a publication that came out in 2023 where we're drawing attention to this, and it looked at 18 cities reporting ways that cities are dealing with this and sharing information around the differences, of course, between the variance in public finance, capacity, density, regulatory arrangements, climatic conditions, albeit very unpredictable, and the mix of sanitation services. So for us, looking at a global report, a city like Medellin in Colombia has 95.5% sewage access, but in Ouagadougou only 3.7. So a global report catches the whole spectrum of this. How wastewater and facial sludge therefore is managed will vary considerably between regions and countries. And I think this will be interesting to discuss in your one city, one treatment model as well. So in terms of breaking the cycle and really the focus today on fecal sludge treatment plants, what we just want to reiterate and support from UN Habitat and JOPA's side is that these treatment plants play a key role in promoting climate resilience sanitation by providing safe, sustainable, and adaptive management to human waste. And why do we think so? Well, they can prevent flood-related contamination and reduce the reliance of pit latrines and open defecation that can overflow, as we've seen just with floods, for example, and also minimize the pathogen spread. Also reduce greenhouse gas emissions, especially with new technologies, capturing biogas and other innovations. Possibly provide nutrient recovery by composting and soil amendments, and therefore contributing to the circular economy, which we find is really a growing field as well, going hand in hand. Supporting water security by recovering water from sludge treatment for irrigation and industrial use, which is also being explored more and more. Enhancing urban resilience in terms of more small scale and neighbor level treatment plants to reduce dependence on sometimes non-existent and inefficient sewage networks, and emergency adaptation, and of course health protection, as already mentioned. And not to go into this now into detail, but just to also echo what was said already, there's a lot of mitigation opportunities that are coming out, and we see this really as a shift, let's say, in the narrative. Many different opportunities along the sanitation chain of more circular economy, of really taking advantage of fecal sludge in a more constructive way as well, that is worth looking into much more together as well in partnerships. And just to end from my side, if this can, yes. Oops, moving too quickly, yes. Maybe just as a last slide, how can JWOPA more directly support the One City, One Fecal Sludge Treatment initiative? So from the Global Water Operator Partnership Alliance side, our work is to look at institutional strengthening and capacity development of utilities. And we do so through what we're calling operator partnerships. So most known for water operator partnerships, but more and more also sanitation water operator partnerships called SWAPs. And we would really like to discuss and see the outcomes of the sessions here at Stockholm, how we can work hand in hand and look at some city-to-city twinning in Africa as this initiative of the One City is further rolled out. We have made a commitment for the 2023 UN Water Conference of expanding these water partnerships by at least 100 more by 2030, and at least 30 of those to be focused on sanitation. So I think this is a perfect time to explore this more and to see how we can work on the strengthening of the capacities needed for the institutions involved in this treatment plant setup. And last but not least, just because I have to do that, let you know that we can also continue this conversation at our Congress, focused on stronger utilities for thriving cities. For African cities to thrive, we need to address the sanitation issue, and this will be a major focus as well on the Congress of Water Operator Partnerships in Bonn in October. So thanks very much, and look forward to the potential of collaboration. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Asha. Yeah. Please, can you give another round of applause to Asha? And we look forward to collaborating with you on the JWOPA city-to-city learning and sharing. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now go to the next item on the agenda, which is the panel discussions. And to launch us into this panel discussions, I will invite our panelists based on their heights. You know me, I'm very, so when I say keep it kitsch, you are panelists, I am short and sweet. So when I say keep it kitsch, keep it short and sweet, I say kiss. When I say keep it kitsch, then you know that short and sweet. Fine. So I will start with the general manager of the Citywise Advisory, Nairobi. And Citywise is part of the Synergy broader company. And the general manager is none other than Wali Mwalugongo from the beautiful city of Nairobi, Kenya. Please welcome Wally to the stage. So because I'm short, and you're short, we can stand next to each other. Then we progress like this. Yes. So let me see if I get the height thing well. The second, somebody's guilty now. I haven't mentioned any name. So let's see. The second panelist is Dr. Jennifer Moltwantua, who is the CEO of the Water Research Commission of South Africa. Let's see if the height thing goes well from this side. Please welcome her again. Yeah. And the third panelist is Dr. Andres Hueso, who was my colleague at WaterAid. I worked at WaterAid before I went to AMCAO. Dr. Andres is the senior policy analyst for WaterAid UK. Incidentally, I think Dr. Andres is the first PhD in sanitation policy that I know. So let's give him a round of applause. Did we get the height thing well? If I do like this. Good. Unfortunately, due to travel constraints, Mr. Lamin Juk, the technical advisor to the Ministry for Water and Sanitation in Senegal, could not make it. We'll try to see if he will join us online. But our fourth panelist is Nuria Ibrahim. Nuria is the program director for Finish Mondial in the Netherlands, in The Hague, in the Netherlands. Finish Mondial is part of Waste, I guess. So Nuria is joining us online. She couldn't make it here today. She will come tomorrow. Nuria, can you say hello to our participants here? Let's know that you're online and you've joined us. You're muted, Nuria. Okay, we'll come back to her. I'll send her a text. And so, I started from the lowest to the highest. Now I'll start from the tallest to the lowest, to the shortest. I start with Dr. Andres. The first question that I have for you is based on what you do. And as a policy advocacy expert, and from that standpoint, what do you think, Dr. Andres, are the most urgent shifts needed in national or donor priorities to ensure that treatment is no longer the neglected link in sanitation service chain across Africa and indeed globally?
Thank you. And do I keep it kitsch or?
Please,
Okay.
keep it kitsch.
Okay,
Yeah, but you just flow.
Sure, no problem. Yeah, the first thing that I wanted to do is I guess very annoying for an panelist organizer, but I wanted to slightly change the question because I think I would try to frame the question around safely managed sanitation in general, because I think there is a bit of a risk of focusing only on treatment, and I think I would say that transport and emptying are equally neglected. So I think we need to look at it holistically. And maybe for PASA, it makes sense to focus on treatment because where PASA is active, we probably have like a more thriving emptying business environment. So that you feel the gap in the treatment. But I think if we look beyond that, and across most areas in towns and cities in Africa, I would argue that emptying, treatment, and transport are the three of them are equally neglected. So, thinking from that point of view, I think, I mean, what are the most urgent shifts? I think the main one is, and I think we say that quite often, but it's repeating, is political prioritization. I think the previous presentation, your presentation, Kitch, showed what a complex web of problems we have around policy, institutional roles, financing, capacity, etc. We really need that top-level push from political leaders, from government officers to drive that agenda and address some of those challenges. And we also need citizens demanding that so that it becomes really a priority. So I think that's in general a key blockage. I think the other one I would highlight is the need to embrace the fact that safely managed sanitation and treatment in particular is a public good, and it needs public funding. And I think unless we really embrace that, then we will not be able to pursue this agenda sustainably. And part of that is having a sound business plan, saying, okay, we're going to invest in the sanitation chain, we're going to invest in treatment, but this is how it will be financed in the long term, because otherwise we have the risk of building things that do not sustain. And we need to have, I think, realistic expectations on what can we recover from reuse, how much money can we get, and also how much the private sector will be able to finance. And both are important aspects, but I think they need to be realistically considered in a bigger picture where public finance plays an important role, given it's a public good. One more thing really is that we need to approach this as a service. We need to focus on sustainability, on the whole sanitation chain, looking at the system, at the capacity. I think a lot of that has been mentioned. But maybe thinking of what this looks like in practice for governments, but also for donors, is we need to stop offering loans and projects that have fecal sludge treatment or wastewater treatment plant in the title. I don't think that's acceptable, because we really need to focus on the service, not on the infrastructure. Infrastructure is a means to achieving that service, and it's only partial. So we need to really bring this more comprehensive approach. So we want projects that say services, that say citywide include sanitation. We don't want projects that say infrastructure, because that leads into what we see in many places, which is there is a very nice treatment plant. It works for a few months, or it doesn't really work. It was in this repair, and then we are back in the square one, but with debt now in the countries, if it was a loan. So really we need to think about that differently. And final point also in terms of that service element would be that we need to get the incentives and the regulations right, because one thing that we see in many places, including in our own projects, is that we sometimes finally get this fecal sludge treatment plant, and maybe we even have thought of a good business plan in terms of how do we finance treatment, reuse, etc. And then the sludge doesn't reach the plant, because we haven't looked into the incentives and the drivers for the emptiers or the emptying businesses or the households to get the toilets emptied and the sludge being taken to the treatment plant. So really thinking about those incentives and regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andres, for that very, very insightful intervention. And I think what I want to take away from this, one of the key takeaways for me, is that on financing, we need to stop offering, financing for projects and say this is for FSTP or this is for wastewater treatment plant. We need to look at the entire service. Now we go to our second panelist, Dr. Jennifer Molwanta. The WRC has led research and innovation in water and sanitation, not just for South Africa, but across the continent. And I recall recently we were at WRC to look at how we partner PASA and WRC. And I brought one of the old publications that the WRC made, and some of the colleagues were shocked. I pulled it out from my bag when the pit is full. So yes, and I mean, it's a very, very old, and they've been doing a lot. So what promising treatment technologies or models do you see as most scalable for Africa, particularly in resource-constrained settings? And how can we work together to build the capacity for treatment towards improving access to safely managed sanitation across the continent?
Thanks, Kish, and good morning, everyone. I think my point of departure would be the quality of water that you get to drink is only as good as or in relation to the raw water that you abstract to treat and have that drinking water. That being said, then sanitation becomes very much important, right? The Water Research Commission has done a lot of work around sanitation, and I mean, it's almost 20 years. And maybe just to start on Africa, we have to shift our thinking around trusting our own innovation and technology. It's so exciting to see, or worrying, to see how many country delegations will move from their countries to all over the world, Europe, East Asia, and all of those other places, to go and see what technologies are there, what solutions are there. Yet the solutions are there in Africa, and you've said over the last 20 years, I think that publication is from over 20 years ago in relation to innovation. So we at the Water Research Commission have also said, and I want to echo what you said around infrastructure and treatment plants. If you're looking sustainability and you are also focusing on the future, these reticulated technologies of the past that we've come to know, we really need to rethink them. We focus on Africa and talk about cities as if that is the land mass of Africa is made up of cities. There's rural Africa where people have not been served with sanitation. Yet the SDG says universal access of water and sanitation to all. That's SDG 6. Now, how do we make sure? At the Water Research Commission, we've looked at decentralized systems, for example. Even when we're considering aged infrastructure that is overloaded, how do you fix that? Because then you're saying, and governments will say, it's expensive, we don't have the money to rebuild another one. But if you start decentralizing this and making sure that treatment happens at a localized level, and you inform it, you utilize a systems approach towards it, that becomes very much important, wherein then you're saying, you are going to take this small catchment, you are going to put a small treatment package plant that's going to be able to separate the liquids from the solids, you treat the solids, you utilize it for fertilizers, and you then take the water, you recycle and reuse that. So for areas where water availability is a challenge, that's where you utilize that. We have implemented that in informal settlements as well as in schools in South Africa. So we do have demonstrations to say this works. Now, where is the challenge? The challenge is we rely so much on engineering that then we cannot think of the new possibility that is out there. Because an engineer will tell you it has to be a pipe, it must go from here to there, and then the outfall must be either in the sea or it must be in the resource. And we are saying we need to rethink that. And in the main, we have to service rural Africa and make sure that we provide these sanitation systems. And recently also we have what you call the reinvent the toilet, where you're saying the experience of sanitation for every human being must be the same. So when we're talking safe, in South Africa, we've gone a step further and said it must be dignified. So it must be flushing in the home, and you must experience it whether you are in rural or you are in urban. What is key is then what happens to after you flush. In a place where there isn't that reticulated system, then you get the treatment as you would your washing machine. You put your clothes in there and then everything happens. So that's what we're looking at. But the key issue there also comes, and you're saying it's much more expensive. Our regulations and our procurement will say it's much more expensive. You want to get the cheapest. You can't compare the two. You can't have a dignified and say it must be cheapest. You really are missing the point. So we really have to shift that thinking and get the political buy-in, definitely, because sanitation is provided mainly by governments. But also we tend to talk about this in trying to look at the poorest of the poor. In South Africa, we've got these high-end estates cropping up everywhere. Where's there's money, right? But the bulk infrastructure to move sanitation gets connected to the very old, aged infrastructure systems that are overloaded. So we have now moved a step further and said, in terms of regulations, it is a crime for a municipality to allow an estate to be established if we cannot have capacity to take off this. But what is important is also that now, from a municipal perspective, there has to be education and awareness around these treatment technologies, because you can't just say you can't do it. What are the options? So we have done the work, and we believe that if we can start doing more awareness, education, but also understanding the biggest minds we have to change are the engineers within the municipal systems, because they are the ones that call the shots and help for the proliferation of overusing these old systems. So yeah, those are some of the technologies. But just also to say, a lot more can be shared when colleagues can come and join us in the 5th to the 12th of November in South Africa. We've got the AUSISA Dialogue, Global South Dialogue. This is where we will be able to showcase and show these actual technologies and for colleagues to take. And we are also very impressed that the bank is here, because I think that's where also the shift needs to come in. The conditions as they lend countries money to say, move towards the new technologies. And yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah, and we will surely be at AUSISA. We have a session there. But I was smiling when you mentioned the engineering. You know, I hope the bank is somewhere here. I hope I'll be in trouble. I have many friends at the bank, but all your jobs advertised for sanitation, they have engineering in it. And I didn't say it. Jennifer said it. So you need to check the engineering out. Let's look at it holistically and see how that goes. And I think WRC has shown that. I don't know. I don't even know if you have an engineer in WRC, but I know they've done tremendous amount of work in sanitation. No single institution I know on the continent has done that. So we need to look at that. That's evidence enough for us. Thank you very much, Jennifer. And now, I just want to check to see. Nuria is smiling, so she's hearing us now. So just say hello, and then we'll continue, just to see if your mic works.
Good morning, all.
Thank you very much. Now, we will come back to you. And we'll go to my friend here. When I was sometime in 2017, I was at Sanergy. I was at AMCAO then. We went with the executive secretary to look at what Sanergy was doing. The big, your office and factory in the city. It was amazing. Now they moved, they scaled, and they are big. And now they have even branched out into what is called citywide advisory and Fresh Life and many other things. So, Wally, Citywise has been deeply involved in supporting African cities with advisory and planning. And of course, I know you're continuing with part of the work that I did and while I was in AMCAO, putting together PMAT and the AS, Africa Sanitation Policy Assessment Tool. So from your perspective, what are the biggest challenges African cities face in integrating treatment services into urban sanitation planning, and what practical steps have proven most effective in overcoming these?
Great. So challenges, we've all been speaking about challenges since we started this session. And the biggest one is, of course, the rapid urbanization. So when we think about cities growing, we are not even forget about the cities themselves. What is happening outside those cities? Those populations are also growing. Right now we are moving into thinking about peri-urban and the rural communities, like my friend here, doctor, has said, right? And how we even managing to plan for those. Of course, with rapid urbanization, we are also having a sprawling growth of informal settlements. Not only in the large cities, but right now, even in Kenya, we are seeing it in the peri-urban areas, where you'll see the peri-urban area also has informal communities growing, who are always underserved. They cannot actually be served with the traditional systems that are already there, the conventional systems. Sewers cannot be reaching everybody. These populations are densely populated. They're in places with poor topography. Construction is impossible. You'd have to, for example, in Kenya right now, and in Nairobi specifically, one informal settlement is at least over 800,000 people. So you'd have to actually move 800,000 people for you to construct a sewer line to be able to serve them, right? Or even to build toilets for them. So what we need to start thinking of is, how are we going to make sure that this rapid growth in population is not competing with the aging infrastructure. That's a huge challenge. Secondly, it's the inadequate local capacity. We are seeing the utilities who are mandated to provide sanitation, right? They do not have the capacity to think outside the box. We are talking about engineers only, but no offense to the engineers in the room, because they are the ones who also design and innovate. We still need them for product development, right? And so we just need to all be thinking outside the box and saying, what solutions can we come up with that would complement what is already existing to be able to serve the people whom we are not serving? And I like what Andres said. Let's not only think about infrastructure. Think about the emptying and the transport component. You're not only thinking about FSTPs at the end of the chain, because for the FSTPs to work, they need the waste to come from somewhere. So you also have to start thinking about the containment bit. How is that waste? What's the quality of that waste that is getting to the FSTPs? And then, of course, the incentives along the chain. Who are these users? And you have to innovate for all of the users, not just the household, also the emptiers who are collecting, emptying, and transport. So if you don't incentivize them, will they get the waste to the fecal sludge treatment plants that we are considering to build and put in money for both treatment and reuse or resource recovery? The third challenge would be the financial constraints. We are hearing a lot of financing gaps in sanitation. It's not only in fecal sludge treatment plants. Again, thinking about the whole service chain, right? Where can we create value for all the users along the chain to make sure that for places in the chain where we need high investments, that investment actually makes sense. We're looking at a lot of governments not even having the data to be able to plan. In addition to no capacity within the local institutions, there's also no data. So how are they going to construct fecal sludge treatment plants where they know they will be adequate for the amount of waste that will be generated to be treated, or even looking at thinking as we think about resource recovery, how are we knowing what we are quantifying in terms of the amount of waste expected for resource recovery? So there's a lot that needs to be done to actually address all these challenges, because all of them now come into planning. Effective planning, and governments are the ones who are mandated to provide the sanitation as a social good. If they don't have data, they're not able to plan. If they plan with inadequate data, they plan wrongly. And so everything that is within the chain will not be planned correctly and will not be fitting everybody. Now, some of the strategies that have been used to overcome some of these challenges, we are now talking about citywide inclusive sanitation, and Andres mentioned this. These are approaches that we are seeing working, because you need several technologies, several options within the service chain that will complement the existing infrastructure, the existing practices, and the existing processes to, first of all, build efficiencies and also make it low cost in terms of service delivery. Again, policies and planning. So we are seeing most of our governments, and I'll give an example of Kenya, where I come from. Right now, almost 20 years later, is when we have reviewed the National Sanitation Management Plan. So it means everything that has been done before this year in Kenya has been done with the old plan of 20 plus years ago. Look at the population growth in Kenya, and even Nairobi city as the capital by itself. There is no way governments will be able to move forward and plan adequately if they're also not reviewing the policies and frameworks in place in relation to the growth of the population. Because things change, and we need to rapidly be adopting and recognizing the ripple effect of not adopting those frameworks. Right now, we are also talking about innovative financing models. We are talking about public-private partnerships, right? So we do have public-private partnerships, even in Kenya, but they are mostly for large infrastructure projects. You're talking about roads, transport systems. There's not a single PPP for sanitation. The framework is there. The documents sit at the ministry. They're developed. But the execution of it is impossible because the public procurement systems do not even allow for public-private partnerships. And so if we don't evolve some of these policies and regulatory frameworks that are in place to make sure that this can happen seamlessly. It's impossible for us to say you'll bring in private sector who will bring in innovative solutions, and also government to say, okay, now we want to adopt the innovative solutions and integrate them, because CWIS is actually an integrated approach, which we all need to be working towards, thinking about how private sector will play its role, government will play its role, the funding partners will also play their role to create more accountability and also the transparency in making sure that everything along the service chain, all the way to treatment, is accounted for and fully delivered effectively. The last but not least is community-based approaches and also capacity building. So while you bring the community on board, it's not solutions that you're taking to the community, design with the community. We are saying take a human-centered design approach. Don't just build the fecal sludge treatment plant. Think about the decentralized treatment plants, like has been said, right? If you're decentralizing it, you have to put it somewhere within a community. And they have to see what the ripple effect of not having a proper toilet to the treatment plant. If they're not aware of what would happen with their waste and what you're thinking of doing with their waste, they are not going to be the people to take up toilets for that treatment plant to actually function. And if we are able to also do a lot of advocacy and policy support, that would be great for government. Once they have data, they are also able to now plan and create these frameworks to allow for implementation. Thank you.
Please, let's clap for. And once again, the issue of engineers came, and it didn't come from me. But engineers, we love you. Preet, are you an engineer?
Yes.
Yes, but he does sanitation planning. We love you guys. You know, you're my friends, all of you. Yeah, but thank you. I think we need to adapt to rapidly evolving cities. We need to look at how we finance the different steps in the sanitation value chain. Thank you, Wally. So we'll now go to Nuria. Nuria, hi. Good morning.
Morning to you.
Very good. Nuria is the program
Hope you
director
can
for.
hear me properly. The connection is not so good, but we'll try.
So I don't know where we're having an echo here.
Maybe
I don't know.
our mics, maybe.
Okay, maybe we'll turn off. Maybe if I turn off mine, it will be better. But let me quickly tell you the question before I turn off the mic, so that you don't answer without a question. So, Finish Mondial works at the intersection of finance, enterprise, and sanitation. The question is, how can some of the financing models you use be better designed to ensure that treatment infrastructure, both and services, are not only built but also sustained over the long term? So you can turn off my mic and see if it works better.
Thank you, Kit. Yes, thank you for having me this morning. So, hi everyone. Let me just start also by mentioning, I think this is the whole discussion about FSTP, which are really playing a crucial role to improve sanitation for public health, by providing us a solution for treatment of disposal of waste. For us, for sustainability, it's really important not only to think about focusing on financing those treatment plants, but really also the capacity building of the workers to run the plants. I think this is a very important key element that you need to take into account. The second one is also enabling environment, which is very important to get the government buy-in. We have a lot of examples, not only in Kenya for Busia, but also in Bangladesh, where we are implementing Finish Mondial program, even in Uganda. This is the two very important part of having a successful work within the FSTPs. Let me just explain the way we do the work, just to understand the kind of different financing strategy that we have within Finish Mondial program. So as waste organization, we focus on a multi-stakeholder approach, what we call the diamond approach. It's used as an approach for system change. The Finnish program is very important one because we do the market-based sanitations and focusing on safely managed sanitation, which I think is very relevant as well. Playing a central role in bridging all the four part of the diamond, which is the financiers, motivate them to invest in the wash sector, the communities, which is the demand creation, awareness creations, the supply chain is very important as well, strengthening the training for the wash and businesses. And of course, the government playing a relevant role in this. I think Finish Mondial and Waste, we are really pioneer in involving the private sector in financing the sector. We have been successful in proving that the sector is bankable. That the repayment rate, because we work mainly with the MFIs using loans, not only for at household level when we talk about building sanitation systems, but also with the pit emptier, the masons, they be able to get financing to do their work and making that sector bankable. Then that's the best way to get investments. The sanitation businesses and entrepreneurs need to be supported in financing to extend their business. And I think this is very relevant part of the way we do and implement the Mondial program and why it's also successful. I think we mentioned also the different banks involved and maybe in this session, those development should really allocate dedicated funds, not only for donation, but loans. The way we work is we try to mobilize, train the microfinance institution to provide loans at household level or to entrepreneur to be able to build a toilet or expand their enterprise, to be able to set up the system in a proper manner. Partnering with microfinancing for flexible loans for low-income household or sanitation focus is an important one. The way we work with the MFIs is also result-based incentives to encourage them that the wash products are bankable products. I think that's the best way that you can really implement the sanitation sector in a broad sense. I think there are also some colleagues in the room, and maybe they can provide more answer and details and examples in the wash sector, the way we implement Finish Mondial. So they will be more than happy also to jump in later on in this session. The system change at national bank is also relevant to us. So we should push the government to support the financial sector, to bring the water sector as a priority in their development agenda. So the bigger donors and African Union should join hands in solving these loanable funds, which really can help the bank to fulfill their social responsibility agenda. I hope it was clear because I cannot calculate the session.
Thank you very much, Nuria, for your intervention, and we really appreciate your input from the Finish Mondial Diamond approach, where you provide funding, but also you kind of guarantee the investment from banks that come as microfinance to sanitation entrepreneurs. And we look forward to partnering with you to support some of our small and medium business owners. And for those in the room, we have an MOU signing with with Waste at the Dutch Pavilion on Wednesday, where we will work across the continent to scale what they are doing. Thank you once again. At this stage, we have exactly 21 minutes, so I will give our panelists, and this time you have to keep it kitsch. You have to keep it short and sweet. So the general question for you is based on this belief that treatment is often described as the missing middle of sanitation service delivery. And of course, it is why we designed the One City, One FSTP initiative. So if you recommend one game-changing action, that the One City, One FSTP can take into the initiative, whether in policy, finance, technology, or behavior change, that will most most accelerate safely managed sanitation through treatment. What would it be? One game change, one suggestion, and keep it kitsch. We'll start with Nuria. Just give us one suggestion that you want us to take into the One City, One FSTP initiative that will help us to be more effective with this initiative. There seemed to be a kind of delay, right? Yeah. Okay. So I think she didn't hear me. So we'll move to. I think I'll start with Wally. Keep it kitsch, and Wally. Keep it Wally.
So one game-changing recommendation that I would give is focusing on decentralizing the systems.
Thank you. Dr. Jennifer.
Innovation and technology. I believe on innovation and technology, we just have to believe in our own that we can do it. The USA has now exported one of the technologies from the Water Research Commission, and my hope is that African leaders will go and see that system so that they can come and buy it and utilize it once they've seen it in the US.
Thank you very much. That is my quote of the day. Dr. Andres.
Thank you. I think that the one thing I would suggest is getting the finance right. So make sure that there is a sound financing plan whenever you are engaging with the cities. It's very clear where the money is going to come from, not just for the building of the FST, but in the long term, how will the service be financed, and really have very realistic financing plan for the service into the long term.
So on that note, I think we've had a very interesting and educating and enlightening session. I think one of the calls to action is for some of our financing institutions and some of our institutions working in sanitation to move away from, when you advertise a job, take away the engineering. So one of our key takeaways is also to decentralize, which was echoed by both Wally and Jennifer. And of course, the issue of financing that Andres talked about, it's very important. And on that note, I'd like to say thank you very much, our panelists. Let's give them a round of applause as they take their leave. But before that, we have a photographer in the house. Can we take a picture with the panelists before they leave? So it's a very gender balanced high table, you can see. Yeah, you can just put them down.
While we take
yes, height balance.
As an engineer by training, I would suggest you need good engineers rather than no engineers. But,
President. So the president is moving according to height, but now Asha is taller than me, so I don't know. I don't know what. Yeah. Good. Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Thank you, Andres. Yes, this way. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. The next item on our agenda, we had 4 panelists, 5 for this, to give us just short case studies from their experiences working across the service chain of sanitation. And but then, unfortunately, 3 of the case study presenters had travel challenges. So I will invite, first of all, Mr. Preet Salian, who has been a consultant working across the continent for many years now on planning, sanitation planning, and policy and other governance issues. Please give him a round of applause. Yes. And our second case study presenter is Mr. Bakari Degoga, who is one of the presidents of is a president of one of the national associations of PASA. He's the president of the association in Côte d'Ivoire, in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire. Bakari. Yeah. So in this session, we will take just short examples of how, and one of the examples will present one of the challenges in real life of based on his experience working on the ground. Mr. Bakari will speak in French, but I'll try to explain when he's done. So, vous avez la parole, chef. Parfait. Oui, oui, ok, très bien. Ok. Après, je vais lire.
Okay. Yeah. Monsieur le Président du PASA, Monsieur Ibrasso, Monsieur le Secrétaire exécutif du PASA, Monsieur Kichibawa, distingués invités, chers collègues et partenaires, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est pour moi aujourd'hui un honneur et un immense plaisir de prendre la parole devant vous aujourd'hui. Permettez-moi tout d'abord d'adresser mes salutations fraternelles et chaleureuses au PASA, à son président, M. Ibrasso, ainsi qu'à son secrétaire exécutif, M. Kichibawa, pour leur engagement constant et leur leadership remarquable dans le domaine de l'assainissement en Afrique. Votre action et votre vision sont une source d'inspiration pour nous tous. Je suis Degoga Bakari, responsable de l'entreprise DBMS, président de la Fédération ivoirienne des acteurs de l'assainissement. Notre fédération regorge en son sein plus de 80 chefs d'entreprise, dont 700 acteurs à travers la Côte d'Ivoire. DBMS est une société spécialisée dans l'assainissement et la construction d'ouvrages. Avec des représentants en Côte d'Ivoire, au Mali et également au Sénégal, notre mission est claire: contribuer à améliorer la qualité de vie des populations à travers des solutions innovantes et durables d'assainissement. En Côte d'Ivoire, nous avons l'immense privilège de collaborer avec le gouvernement, qui a su faire preuve d'une grande volonté politique pour renforcer le secteur. Je tiens à féliciter le gouvernement ivoirien pour cette vision de cette collaboration fructueuse. Ce partenariat représente une reconnaissance pour les acteurs privés comme ma structure DBMS, mais surtout il démontre la synergie entre secteur public et privé qui est essentielle pour relever le défi de l'assainissement. Toutefois, malgré les avancements, nous faisons face à des défis de taille dans le traitement des boues fécales, la difficulté de la collecte et du transport, le manque d'infrastructures adaptées dans certaines zones, le besoin de financement conséquent pour assurer un service durable et sûr. Ces défis ne sont pas seulement techniques ou financiers, ils sont aussi humains, car derrière chaque retard ou difficulté se trouvent des populations dont la santé et la dignité dépendent directement de la qualité de nos interventions. C'est dans ce sens que nous saluons avec enthousiasme et satisfaction l'initiative gouvernementale « Une ville, une station de traitement de boues de vidange ». Pour nous, cette initiative est une opportunité historique. Elle permettra de renforcer nos capacités, de créer un maillage plus efficace sur les territoires et surtout d'améliorer la gestion sûre de boues fécales. Plus encore, elle contribuera à protéger l'environnement, préserver la santé publique et offrir un cadre de vie plus digne à nos concitoyens. Mesdames et messieurs, notre continent est jeune et plein de potentiel. L'assainissement n'est pas seulement une question de santé, c'est aussi un enjeu de développement, de dignité et de justice sociale. Ensemble, gouvernement, acteurs privés, social et civils et partenaires techniques, nous pouvons transformer ces défis en opportunités et bâtir un avenir où chaque ville, chaque communauté aura un accès à un assainissement sûr et durable. Je voudrais conclure en réitérant ma gratitude au PASA, à son président M. Ebrasso et à son secrétaire exécutif M. Kichibawa pour l'invitation et pour le rôle fédérateur. Je vous assure de notre engagement à poursuivre ce combat, car nous croyons fermement que l'assainissement est au cœur du développement de l'Afrique. Je vous remercie.
Thank you, Bakari.
Thank
So what he said is basically he said that he's the president of the federation, the National Federation of Sanitation Business Owners in Cote d'Ivoire. His name is Bakari Degoga, and he's the CEO of ETS DBMS. It's in French, so. And he said that the federation is strong in Cote d'Ivoire with about 50 business leaders and about 500 members across the country of Cote d'Ivoire. And DBMS, the company, is specialized in sanitation construction with representation in Cote d'Ivoire, Mali, and Senegal. And the mission is to improve people's quality of life through innovative and sustainable sanitation solutions. So he said in Cote d'Ivoire that he has the immense privilege of having a a partnership with the government at the national level, which has shown great political will to strengthen the sector. And he goes on to congratulate the government for that being open to that kind of partnership. And this partnership, he said, represents a recognition for private sector business owners in sanitation, and above all, that it demonstrates the synergy between the public and the private sector, which is very essential for sustainable sanitation service delivery. And the rest is to thank you all. And he says that there are also some challenges that they face because they do a lot of, in their business, they do a lot of emptying and transporting, but the treatment plant is overloaded, and in some parts where they work, there are no treatment plants, so they have to find somewhere to empty. And he says that he looks forward to the One City, One FSTP to see how they can also work with the government to decentralize and have the kind of small treatment plants that we talked about here. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur De Goga. Attends. Then we go to Mr. Prit. Mr. Prit is a consultant. He worked for UNICEF, some countries, the World Bank presently, and also we've done some work together. So from your work, Prit, share some of the experiences that you think will help to improve treatment services in the fecal sludge management chain.
Thank you, Kitch. Good morning, everyone. My name is Prit Salian, and I'm guilty as charged. Unfortunately, I'm an engineer. But I have to defend my tribe. I have to defend my tribe, and I say there are some of us who think differently.
Yes, we know.
All right. So One City, One FSTP. As much as I like that headline, let me play the devil's advocate. Having worked in 28 cities now in Africa, developing plans, FSTPs, FSM plans, and CYS plans, I've had some insights into what the challenges are. I'll give you a case in point, taking Uganda as an example. I don't want to put Uganda in the spotlight, but I think over the last decade, we've seen a lot of work in Uganda, some good work. So let's take it as a learning from Uganda. I mean, all the actors, the ministry, GIZ, the World Bank, AFTB, Water for People, they've done some incredible work in Uganda, and there's a lot of learning that is coming out. So I'll take Uganda as a case to say, over the past years, I think Uganda has now around 50 FSTPs across the city, across the country. Some of them in large cities and some of them in small and medium towns. And if you analyze how these FSTPs are actually functioning, you will very quickly realize that almost all of them, other than big cities in like Kampala and the other larger towns, almost all of them are running at less than 30% operational efficiency. That means you have fecal sludge treatment plants, you don't have sludge. So what went wrong? What did we do wrong there? Did we over-design the plant? Is the emptying not happening? When you actually look into deeper, you dig deeper into the problems, you realize that in medium and small towns in Africa, and this is across the chart, this is not only Uganda. We've worked in Kenya, we've worked in Tanzania, Zambia, it's across the chart. When you look at small and medium towns, more than 70% of the toilets that exist in these towns cannot be emptied because they are unlined pits. So you build a fecal sludge treatment plant, and then you have no sludge coming out. Then your customer base is 20 to 30% of the population. So it really depends on which town you're talking about. Yeah, you mentioned a lot of towns where FSTPs are overloaded. Yes, these are big mega cities. Yeah, these really need infrastructure. But then you have smaller cities where you really have to think about what you're going to do when you're looking at FSM. And one of the key challenges that we have realized is, yes, you can build FSTPs, you can improve emptying and transport, but you really, really, really have to concentrate on good containment. Containment systems toilets and containment that can be emptied regularly. And you need standardization, you need good businesses to come in, you need good practices to go into construction standards, and XYZ. The list is long. So as much as we focus on FSTPs and also on improving emptying and transport, I think for me, after having worked for 20 years, I think one key challenge is proper emptying, proper containment. If you don't have good containment, your FSM chain is going to fall apart because that's your starting point. And I think one of the presenters mentioned that if you don't have containment, you're not going anywhere. You cannot improve on FSM. And I think for me, one of the key challenges is then you're looking really into households, and most of these households are low-income groups. I mean, you cannot expect them to put in whatever, $400-500 to improve a containment system. Then the whole option of how do you finance that? Fonish Mondial is doing some good work around that. How to finance this entire structure and how to finance the entire sanitation chain, just not FSTPs, just not emptying, but also proper containment. You have to look at it as a system, and how to finance the entire system becomes a key challenge. It's a massive undertaking. We've worked a little bit with the Ugandan ministry on that one, on how to actually incentivize households to actually improve containment. There's a publication coming out. I'm not sure if it is up for public use as now, but we can share more information on that. And I like what Andreas said. We have to really start looking at sanitation as a public good, because we look at household toilets as a private good, emptying as a private sector entity, and FSTP as a public entity. So you have three different financing modalities there, and we have to stop that and try to look at it as a public good. When you start looking at it as a public good, that goes into a policy document. You entirely change how you look at financing sanitation. Yeah. So for me, that is one key area that we need to improve. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So this is taking us back to the start. We need to also look at the quality of the toilets. I recall Sanergy was doing container-based toilets in the informal settlements and emptying themselves so that they have quality sludge for their plant. And on that note, we come to the end of this segment. Thank you very much, Bakari. Can we take a picture and then we will move to the next? Just one picture.
Who's taking the picture?
Yeah, there's someone there. Thank you. Yes, we take a picture with an engineer to show that we love engineers. Thank you, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I think it's been very interesting, and I'm sure you have questions and comments, but we would like for you to, can you put the email, oh no, the email is not there, so if you have a question or comment, please send it to me, and we will take care of it. To bring us to the close of this session, we have a very, very important person in the room with us. Dr. Mohamed Bassirou Diatta is the Sherpa for Senegal for the 2026 United Nations Water Conference. You know that there is something that will start in Senegal before we go to the UN. So please welcome Dr. Diatta to deliver the closing remarks for us for this session. Welcome. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, moderator. Excellency President So, distinguished delegate, ladies and gentlemen. My task is very easier because I have to say a few words for the closing of this amazing session. I'm honored to join this important discussion on the subject too often neglected in the global sanitation agenda. It's about treatment. The indispensable service that ensures sanitation service systems are safe, resilient, and sustainable. Sanitation is not only about infrastructure, it's about human dignity, public health, and environmental protection. Yet, in too many African cities, fecal, sludge, and wastewater are collected but not properly treated. They are discharged into environment, polluting rivers, soils, and aquifers, with devastating impact on health, ecosystem, and urban resilience. The treatment stage is the cornerstone of the sanitation value chain. It is what breaks the cycle of disease by reducing pathogen and protecting communities from disease. It safeguards fragile ecosystem from pollution and degradation. It opens pathways to circular economy, transforming waste into resources, compost for agriculture, biogas, and energy. And it lends credibility to public sanitation policies, creating trust between institution and citizen. Yet, this critical link remains the weakest. Treatment plans are too few, often underfunded, and poorly maintained. Data is scarce, governance fragmented, and financing tends to focus on toilet and collection, while overlooking the system that make them safe. Colleagues, Africa cannot afford this gap. If we fail to invest in treatment, we are not solving the sanitation challenges. We are merely shifting the risk downstream. But if we seize this opportunity, treatment can become a driver of resilience, innovation, and green jobs. The experience of Senegal illustrates that this potential, from the pioneering fecal sludge treatment plan of Camberen, now extended to 90,000 cubic meter per day, the innovative structured market for fecal sludge program supported by the Gate Foundation's Senegal have shown that treatment can be scaled, modernized, and integrated into urban development strategies. But we know this is just a beginning. We have a long way to go to make this a global reality. What we need now is a paradigm shift, integrating treatment at the heart of sanitation policies and financing frameworks. Second, we need investment in appropriate energy efficiency technology that are easier to operate and maintain. We need professionalizing and regulating services to attract private sector and ensure sustainability. And last, we must promote reuse and valorization, turning waste into wheel and making sanitation part of the circular economy. As we prepare for the 26th Water Conference, co-hosted by Senegal and United Arab Emirates, the issue of sanitation and particular treatment must be elevated to the highest political level. In Interactive Dialogue 1 of the conference, Water for People, we must affirm that safely managed sanitation is a foundation of public health. Without treatment, there is no protection against epidemics, no health cities and societies, and no dignity for millions of people. In Interactive Dialogue 2 of the United Nations Conference in 26, Water for Prosperity, we must recognize sanitation as an engine of inclusive growth, urban resilience, and green jobs, linking waste management to agriculture, energy, and climate adaptation. The 26th UN Water Conference offers an historic opportunity to place sanitation and especially treatment at the center of the global water development agenda. To prepare this, Senegal will convene a high-level preparatory meeting in Dakar from 26 to 27 January to mobilize all partners around these vital issues. Let us seize this moment to reaffirm a simple but powerful message. Treatment is not optional. It is indispensable. It is the difference between risk and resilience, between vulnerability and dignity, between pollution and opportunity. Together, let's make sanitation, complete sanitation, including treatment, a true priority for Africa and for the world. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And on that note, we come to the end of our session. If you have a question, you know where to find our panelists and our speakers. For all the panelists and our speakers, we'll go outside and take a group picture. And of course, all of you can join us. We're running into other people's time. Thank you for joining us. And we look forward to sharing with you and having you join us in the One City, One FSDP initiative of PASA. Thank you. Bye.